This is the Unit 2 test remediation video. We will go over the 3 most missed questions on the Unit 2 test. When you're done watching this remediation video, you will retake the test for a better score. So the first question is question 5, and this is for the story Out of Place. So our question is, a theme in this story is that sometimes people are not always what they appear to be. Which statement develops this theme? We have A, Michelle wears a football jersey and jeans to her internship at the nursing home. B, Paul moved to Pennsylvania and grew up in Scranton. C, Paul brightens into a smile when Michelle enters his room. So the answer to question 5 is A, Michelle wears a football jersey and jeans to her internship at the nursing home. So when we look at this question, it tells us what one of the possible themes of the story is. So a theme of the story is that sometimes people are not always what they appear to be. So when we look at the story, in the text it says, wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt and jeans with dark curls pushed back in a hair clip, Michelle stood out from the crowd of nurses and caregivers in white pants and polo shirts who were standing huddled in the doorway of Paul's room. She moved past them and rushed to Paul's side. As soon as he saw her, Paul's face brightened and he stopped looking like a stricken animal and instead looked like someone who recognized a dear old friend. So when we look at that part of the passage, it specifically says that she is dressing very different than the other staff, right? She is interning at this nursing home, and instead of wearing what everybody else is wearing, she's wearing a football jersey, Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt, and jeans. Now that is different from all of the nurses and caregivers that are wearing white pants and polo shirts. Okay, so the nurses and caregivers are wearing white pants and polo shirts, and Michelle is wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt and jeans, right? So she looks different here. She's dressing very different than all the other staff. And maybe some people might think that's a negative thing, that she's dressed maybe casual and not as professional looking as the other staff. However, she is the only one really that can calm Paul down and really do anything to get him to settle and do what he needs to do. So Michelle stood out from the crowd, right? This is telling us that she's not appearing to be the same as everyone else there. And it's saying that the nurses are standing huddled in the doorway of Paul's room. What does she do? She doesn't do what they do and just stand there. She moves past them and rushes to Paul's side. Okay, and this is a positive thing for Paul. Paul calms down, he relaxes, and he kind of recognizes her as like a dear old friend. Maybe it's because she looks different than the nurses and caregivers. Maybe she looks like a friend because she's wearing a football jersey and jeans, right? And so this develops the theme that sometimes people are not always what they appear to be. Now, if we look at the other answer choices, B, this information doesn't support the given theme. It might show a different theme, though. And again, C is the same thing. This quote doesn't quite support the given theme, but it could show a different theme for the story. So then we have question 6, and again, this question is for the story Out of Place. Which sentence develops the idea that Michelle is learning to understand how other people feel? So which sentence develops the idea that Michelle is learning to understand how other people feel? When I see that, learning to understand how other people feel, that makes me think of the idea of feeling empathy, right? Empathy is the idea of walking a mile in another person's shoes, seeing things from other people's perspectives and thinking about their point of view. So Michelle is learning empathy here. She's learning to understand how other people feel. So we have A, at first she wanted to intern at her dad's gas station, but her teacher told her she needed to branch out and signed Michelle up at the Oak Court nursing home, only 15 minutes away from her house. B, still Michelle had been curious and she felt sorry that Paul had a bad reputation among the staff. C, so she decided that the next time she brought supplies to his room, instead of avoiding Paul, she would play along with whatever he said. So our correct answer here is B. Still, Michelle had been curious and she felt sorry that Paul had a bad reputation among the staff. Sometimes when we think about the idea of feeling sorry for someone, we think of the idea of sympathy, right? And sympathy and empathy are very close ideas. They're similar ideas. So this answer choice kind of goes along with the idea that Michelle is learning to understand how other people feel. So if we look at the text, it says, still Michelle had been curious and she felt sorry that Paul had a bad reputation among the staff. She too had felt like everyone mistrusted her, especially at the nursing home where she was so much younger than the rest of the staff. So she understood how he must feel. Besides, he was the only person in the whole place with skin nearly as dark as hers. So in this part of the passage, it talks about she felt sorry for Paul. It talks about her relating to him. She too had felt like everyone mistrusted her. Again, it talks about she understood how he must feel. Okay, that directly goes along with the idea that she is learning to understand how other people feel. And the story talks about her sharing common experiences with Paul, the mistrust in the nursing home, as well as the common appearances that they share, like the dark skin that they both have. And so it's talking about Michelle can personally relate to Paul in a few ways. So she starts to understand how he must be feeling. The idea that she is learning to understand how other people feel goes along with the quote, walking a mile in another person's shoes, right? It has to do with the idea of seeing things from other people's perspectives and thinking about their point of view. So this quote here for B shows that she is learning to feel empathy for him. And if we look at the other answer choices, for A, this information doesn't have anything to do with empathy. It does show that she is expanding her life and career experiences, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with her learning to understand how other people feel. And again, see, this quote doesn't deal with the concept of empathy either. It shows that she is getting comfortable with Paul and learning how to deal with him, but not necessarily the idea that she is learning to understand how other people feel. Okay. Then we have question 16, and this goes along with the story August Heat. How does Mr. Atkinson develop over the course of the story? Now, this word develop, and when they say develop over the course of the story, they're talking about some kind of change or shift in personality. So, how does Mr. Atkinson change or shift in personality over the course of the story? And we're going to look at the character in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story, and we'll see if we can find that shift or change in personality for Mr. Atkinson. So our answer choices here. A, he is content with himself and his appearance until he sees the picture James drew of him and becomes self-conscious. B, he is a talkative stonemason who takes pride in his work, but remains silent as he struggles to repair a table leg. C, he is friendly and kind to James, but transforms into a menacing man, sharpening his chisel in the stifling hot attic. So our correct answer here is C. Let's look at why. So in the beginning of the story, it says, the text says, he greeted me smiling as if we were old friends and shook my hand. So that's very nice. It's very friendly and kind. Okay. Then in the middle of the story, he says, come inside and have some supper, said Mr. Atkinson. Again, very nice, kind and friendly. Then at the end of the story, it says, we are sitting now in a long, low room beneath the eaves. Atkinson has sent his wife to bed. He himself is busy sharpening some tools at a little oil stone, smoking one of my cigars the while. The air seems charged with thunder. I am writing this at a shaky table before the open window. The leg is cracked, and Atkinson, who seems a handy man with his tools, is going to mend it as soon as he has finished putting an edge on his chisel. It is after 11 now. I shall be gone in less than an hour. But the heat is stifling. It is enough to send a man mad. And in this context, the word mad does not mean angry. It means crazy or insane. And what do crazy or insane men do in stifling heat? They could be capable of murder, right? Or killing or hurting another person. And so we have the ending here, and it doesn't tell us that he is turning into a crazy murderer here, but we can, it implies it, and we can infer that he does kill the narrator. And so in the beginning and the middle of the story, he's this nice, kind, friendly man. And then in the end of the story, he turns into possibly this crazy murderer, right? And so this answer here, C, he is friendly and kind to James, but transforms into a menacing man sharpening his chisel in the stifling hot attic. That is the only answer choice here that not only shows the change and shift in personality for the character, but it's actually true given the facts and information we get from the story. If we look at the other answer choices, A and B, so A, he doesn't become self-conscious of his appearance any time in the story. This just doesn't happen. It's not, that information is not given to us in the story, and so we can't say that this is true. Okay, it just doesn't happen. He doesn't become self-conscious of his appearance anytime in the story. They talk about that coincidence, but nowhere does it imply or say that he becomes self-conscious. So we can automatically get rid of that one. Now, B, he is a talkative stonemason who takes pride in his work. That's true. But then it says, but remains silent as he struggles to repair a table leg. Now, does he actually struggle to repair a table leg? Does that actually happen in the story? Well, if we look here at the end of the story, it does say that I'm writing this at a shaky table before the open window. The leg is cracked, and Atkinson, who seems a handyman with his tools, is going to mend it as soon as he has finished putting an edge on his chisel. So right now he's sharpening his chisel. And it says in the story that he's going to mend the table leg, but nowhere in the story does it say or imply that he actually does struggle to repair that table leg. So we really can't say for sure whether that actually happens in the story. Okay? So he doesn't necessarily struggle to repair a table leg, and so we can get rid of that answer choice. The only one that really fits is C, because he is friendly and kind to James. Right? We see that in the story. That information is given to us there. And we do see him transform into a menacing man sharpening his chisel in the stifling hot attic. It does give us that information. We know for a fact that that is true information and that actually does happen. Okay? Do we know if he actually murders James? No. But we do know that he changes and shifts in personality from a kind, friendly man into this menacing man sharpening his chisel in the heat, right? So that's really the only answer that fits for how does Mr. Atkinson develop over the course of the story. Okay? So that is the end of our Unit 2 test remediation video. Again, now you will retake the Unit 2 test for a better score. Good luck.